quivering sister? And she said, oh, I'm doing this, you do this. Like, okay. Coalition. Yeah. Look, can I just acknowledge the fact that you have put on this fantastic event, and just to have locals, pull together locals to engage in our democracy. Thank you. I know that would have been a big mission. I know that you had to advertise this and due to COVID, so just an exceptional work on your behalf and all of your colleagues. So afternoon for me, kia ora. To my friends, Mike, that was great. I've studied all this stuff, of course, but I wasn't really of age to comprehend the nuance. I've watched old Muldoon do his, but that won't give them much time either. That speech quite a few times, but it's always so important. I was saying to Mike just prior that one of the big things that I think we do have an exceptional system. We are very fortunate to have this electoral system, and one of the only things I think is something that we collectively have to work on now is ensuring still that people understand it. Because here we are in 2020, the system's been in place since 1996, and every single street corner that I'm on, I'll be explaining that we have 2 votes. I'll be explaining what the party vote does, and I'll be explaining what the electorate vote does. And even, actually, to some politicians, you have to explain this stuff. So it's not a complicated system, it's a very clear system, but we've got a lot of work to do in terms of lifting our collective acumen, which is why I really appreciate that we are able to throw these events on and halls across electorates like ours. So, my name is Kiri Allan. I have been a Member of Parliament for the past 3 years, since 2017. I had no clue that I was going to be a Member of Parliament until about March of 2017, when my friend Jacinda Ardern called me up. She said, hey, you wanted to be a Member of Parliament? Yeah, I said, and I was running in the East Coast, so it was seen as very blue electorate at that time. Not anymore. Let's go, East Coast. And she said, oh, did you want to be an MP? And I said, well, no, I've kind of got my kid on the way. I was just chucking my hand up, doing a bit of a run. She said, funny that, because you're number 20 on the list. So from that point on, it became very clear that it was likely that I'd get into Parliament in 2017, which was quite a life-shifting moment. Prior to that, I guess I'm a child of this electorate, pretty much all throughout the 4 corners of our electorate, the East Coast, from Paengaroa, Te Karaka, Whakatane and Gisborne. And I am also the 9th of 10 kids, so the underpinnings of this morning's discussion are really looking at the roots of social justice, environmental justice, and how those 2 things intertwine. Grew up as the 9th kid of 10, and I don't usually say this. Are there any media in the room? No. That's good. Like at a very early stage in my life, my father was incarcerated, all of my brothers were incarcerated, and I was raised as a whānau to my mum's older sister. And so I guess I got to look at really early on, are we inherently really bad people? Like, do I come from bad stock? Or is there something else going on at play that drives inequalities that start from root? So I remember my mum always say this, I grew up in church as well, but she said that the one thing that I always was harping on about, but why? But why, Mum? Why is it? How? Why? How? Why? And so those questions, I think, have been real key drivers to me understanding the world. Is this fair? How does this make sense? And who's making the decisions to enable these people to do pretty sweet and these ones not to do pretty okay at all? So I kind of got into activism pretty young. I was about 16 when I sort of really started organising protests and things focused on social and environmental justice. I ended up spending a big portion of my life campaigning for on environmental issues all throughout North America, really around renewable energies. Did a lot of opposition to coal extraction, water extraction and those types of things. We also learned how to organise around political issues that took in, I guess, a whole vast range of different communities. Like when I was working in the Navajo Reservation in North America. I haven't talked at all about being an MP, but I don't care, this is better. But I was working on the Navajo Res, and we were, and the thing was that you had this Peabody Coal Company. They had perpetual rights to coal and water to extract it. The people that were employed were all natives from the region. We were campaigning to shut down Peabody Coal Company, but at the same time it was going to displace thousands of native workers. So we realised that it wasn't sufficient to just be in opposition to the thing that we considered was doing great harm. We had to be able to create a whole nother work. We had to create something beyond the closure, but something that was sustainable for the whole community, the land and the people. So we worked, and it was a successful campaign in terms of getting the carbon credits. We got Peabody Coal Company to commit to setting up a renewable energy station on the res, and all those people were committed to being hired ongoing. But I think those are the things that have driven my politics always. Like the way that we live and treat our whenua, our environment, the way that we treat our people. The two things are intertwined. I think I like the mix of this row. I think there's a few more greenies than there are reddies, but that's all right. The thing is that, you know, hey, a bit of both. Yeah, I can see I've got my crows in the shirt. But I think coming in as a decision maker over the past 3 years, what you realise, I know that one of the questions you wanted me to ask is why things are so long, and I'll answer that maybe later on. Like when you campaign on an issue, how come change doesn't come overnight? And I'll get to that in a little bit if somebody asks me questions. But I think that when you're in a role like this, our job is to always be applying an equity lens over everything. I campaigned for the Labour Party join when I was 18 years old because I fundamentally believe that put people at the heart of everything it does. And in turn, the way that we treated our environment was critical. So I guess for me, those are the things that drive my politics. Great to have Catriona here today. She's been a fantastic advocate, for example, right here in Ōpōtiki, investing in our people, our place, and doing it in a way that's ecologically safe and sound, growing our economy whilst also growing people, whilst also growing a fantastic brand of great produce. There's not a right way and a wrong way, and I think that that's something that becomes a little bit too, that's why politics can be a little frustrating sometimes. I like that we have the diversity of voices in this room because we actually all need to collaborate together, which is why I started with that conversation about the Peabody Coal Company. We can't just be in opposition to something without having a sustainable, ongoing vision for how we transition from one environment to another.